say it again, you've been had. You've been took. You've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok. This is what he does. I'm going to tell you like it really is.
Welcome, everyone, back to another edition of Let's Take 5, the podcast where we talk about a cinema legend and discuss their excellence and range. My name is Eric Martindale.
My name is Austin Luger.
And today we are continuing on with our Spike Lee 5. The previous films we covered were Do the Right Thing, Mo Better Blues, Malcolm X. With this film, we'll be covering 25th Hour, this podcast. And the film after this, we'll be talking about BlackkKlansman. But for now, 25th Hour. 25th Hour was the film that came out in 2003, I believe.
Started
2002. So was it after it?
This is like
after 9/11, like the second after 9/11. Yeah, it's 2002. So it's a film about being right after 9/11 too, but also about a man who is convicted of a crime where he's about to go away to jail for 7 years. The day before he goes away to jail, he wants to spend one last time with his younger, I don't want to say childhood friends, but friends that he's had for a very long time. His oldest friends and his girlfriend. They go out to a bar. They have very existential conversations through the night. We learn about the characters that he surrounds them with in a very Spike Lee way, how we learn the past of all the characters we're going to spend time with, not just the protagonist. And the film ends on a really weird, dreamy sequence where Brian Cox, playing Edward Norton's dad, is driving him to serve his time in jail. The film is called 25th Hour because he's got 25 hours or so, like 1 hour after a day. After today is done, I'm going to jail. And the film also, well, I'll get into that later because I don't want to, actually I should. I want to lead off with this point. A lot of this film is based off the fear of getting raped in prison. That is a huge driving force of this film. The Edward Norton character in this film is really scared that he's too pretty and not going to make it in prison. He spends a lot of the film lamenting that, and the whole bulwark here is, I'm like, well, he's going away for 7 years. It's not like he's going away forever, but it's this fear that he's going to come back changed.
Well, and it's not like completely
a huge portion of the film is
he's going to be abused. He's going to be someone who cannot defend himself without the structural elements he has now.
That's true, but there are several points made over and over again about how he's, first of all, giving Edward Norton, who's a good-looking guy, way more credit than he actually deserves. He's way too pretty. He's way too pretty. How he literally needs to go into prison ugly, because if not, he's going to get raped.
Right. So,
like, that is a big thing in this film that had me like, whoa, this is not just prison, but prison plus this, which is something that, like, is talked about a lot when it talks about films where people go to prison. But it was shocking to me how much that was the focus of the film.
Well, and it's just me.
And I've read, I've read a lot of, like, reviews and stuff on this film after I saw it that brought that up too. Like, this is a thing. Like, this is, like, getting raped in prison is, like, the scary thing that happens in hour 26. Like, anyway, so leading with that, he thinks that he's going to be he thinks he's going to be raped, he thinks he's going to beat up, he doesn't think he's going to make it in prison.
Make it out.
Or make it out. So he thinks that his life is ending, basically, at the end of this, so he wants to have one good last time. But how can you have one good last time when you know
the ticking clock?
Yes.
One of the smallest recognitions of that is, like, when, I think his, like, girlfriend sleeps in, and she just is so aware of, like, the hour, like, she missed now. Like, gets up an hour more tomorrow kind of thing. And, I mean, the movie isn't just, like, these hours. There are flashbacks, really good flashbacks and such. But it is such an incredible character study of all of them. And this is based off a novel. And this is actually, I think, one of the only screenplays where Spike Lee is not credited as screenwriter.
David Benioff, who is the showrunner for Game of Thrones.
Yep. This was one of his first novels, and I think one of his first ever screenplays. He's doing all right for himself.
Yeah, he's doing okay.
He's supposedly going to make a Star Wars film. They've said like 5 other people. We'll see if that actually happens. But,
we'll see if that actually
happens. But yeah, this was... I've read the book. It's very good. I like the movie more, because Spike Lee makes things really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's so good. I mean, the other palpable thing, other than me, rape in prison, the other big thing that is underlying, even more so subtly, is that the film is a post 9/11 film.
And that makes this one of the greatest films about 9/11 because...
I think it is the greatest. I'm going to talk a lot about that.
Because, I mean, essentially 9/11 happened during the pre-production of this movie.
And some of the shots were actually shot before 9/11.
Yeah, and some were, like, directly, like, we're going to do this now. Like, the movie began...
It features people in the film that were killed in 9/11. The shot of Brian Cox in the bar with the firefighter. So this is IMDb trivia, so don't take it to the bank, but that was a real firefighter bar, and those firefighters were all killed in 9/11.
Yeah.
According to IMDb. So that's how close we are to the event. And so many films at the time were basically trying to distance themselves from 9/11. You think Spider-Man came out.
Because like he had like the web between the towers.
They cut all references, all things. And there were films that didn't come out that involve...
Big Trouble?
Yeah, Big Trouble. There was another one, too. I think a Schwarzenegger film about a plane hijack. It was like people were trying to like get away from this. And Spike Lee says, no, this is it.
Well, it's like in this movie isn't about like... There's one scene where two guys talk about 9/11, but it's always there. And the movie begins with an aware element because it's... a lot of films open with opening credits and like a cityscape. But this is at night. It's very somber music, and the lights are up where the towers were. The tribute lights that were there. And, like, it puts you in a feel of New York. I mean, Spike Lee is one of the great New York filmmakers, and he always, like, has a different sense and style to his New York as opposed to Woody Allen's New York because of New York. This is such a particular... No one knows how to process their emotions.
Exactly.
And it fits so well with what the story is, and, like, everyone is just on edge... angry, mourning,
and depressed.
Everything.
Yeah. There's a zeitgeist, a palpable zeitgeist that where 9/11 isn't being talked about, it exists through the film.
Yeah.
I didn't live in New York when 9/11 happened, so I, of course, am talking out of my ass here because there's probably a very specific finger to the button on what New Yorkers who lived there at this time would recognize in this film. This feeling of, like, existentialism, lack of identity, mortality.
Camaraderie.
Which existed during that time, too, for all Americans, but specifically for New Yorkers as well. And people living their lives maybe a little differently because all of a sudden,
it could
all end, right? And we're all faced with that daily because we have a constant reminder downtown of that. And so when it's not even being spoken about, there's this raw emotion on the sleeve of every New Yorker in this film that makes me feel like this is the best 9/11 movie ever for that reason.
And it's amazing also that we're 15 years out from this movie, and we watched this and it's like, this is a 9/11 film. It's not just like a trivia thing of like, this happened like months after. No, it is.
There's a zeitgeist.
There's DNA of this film.
Exactly, and that below the surface subtlety of it is what makes it so great.
Yeah,
these characters couldn't talk about it because if they did talk about it, they might just break to pieces.
Yeah,
it's like where they're constantly resisting that through the whole film, and I feel like we've talked about it longer than it's referenced in the film.
100%.
And that's kind of why it's so incredible.
Yes, and I mean this movie. I mean at this point now, Spike Lee hadn't had a hit for a while, and this is such a radical movie that he was so... It's a different look at what a confident film this is than the other ones. Like, Malcolm X is this grand epic, is this very kind of complicated thing. This, it doesn't go for, like, the Spike Lee-isms of, like, this is a Spike Lee kind of shot, but it's absolutely a Spike Lee movie. Like, the way he frames characters, the way they move in their environment.
The way they talk to each other.
Yeah, it is... And again, it's not even like... He didn't write the screenplay for this one, but it just feels still like he's not in it. First time we haven't had him in it. And it's so remarkable how well he just like balances everything. I mean, it's not an easy thing to make. You're dealing with flashbacks. You're dealing with like everything that's undersaid about people who should know how to say it.
Right.
So we need to talk about the monologue in this film. So there's at this point now, like we've seen Edward Norton's character. I mean, he's having a day. He's not like He's keeping it together.
He's having his last dinner with his dad.
Yeah, having
he goes out with his
dad.
friends.
He's talking to girlfriend. He's gone for a walk. Checking out the old school. Like, it's melancholy, but it's not like he's not amped up to a 10 until like he has to he's in the bathroom. He looks himself in the mirror and
"fuck you" is written on the mirror.
Looks in the mirror, and the reflection of him then goes up on a monologue. Because it's not him doing it, and it's just the reflection in the monologue. And it's just this long, incredible, vibrant, insanely well edited of him just being angry at everything.
Every culture, every race, every
guy on the bus, everything.
And it's this raw sort of emotion that's just pouring out of him where it's the inverted fuck you, where it's like, no, fuck all of you. Fuck you for this, and you for this, and you for this. And it's like all these unspoken things that I want to get out and just I want to burn this world down because I have to leave. It's like the stages of death, and right now here we're in the whatever stage that is, where he's
anger.
Yeah. Right. Well, yeah, it's the anger stage, and he's just so palpable. But then at the end of the monologue, no, fuck me.
Fuck me.
And that's the whole thing, is like, we've all been there. We've all looked in the mirror and said, fuck everybody, and then thought, no, fuck me.
And there's a very subtle callback to the monologue at the end of the film when he's in the car with his dad, and he's looking at the city for the last time, and he just kind of sees, not the exact people were in the editing montage, but he's seeing the city that he was bemoaning angrily. And this is what I'm going to miss.
But he loves it.
Yeah, it's this kid on the street. This is... He's going to miss New York. And the monologue was yelling, fuck you to New York.
Yeah.
And...
Literally, that's what it's yelling.
Yeah. And it's such a... It's a captivating thing because of Spike Lee and Edward Norton. But, the comparison would be the Choose Life monologue and, Trainspotting kind of thing. But that one is an articulation of philosophy. And that's also the tone of the movie. This is breaking to kind of show what's under the surface, and then he goes right back to the party, and he's he's going to go talk to Philip Seymour Hoffman, and they're not going to raise their voice.
Yeah,
they're pondering what the toast could be. I think at the next scene, right?
The studio. Well, I think that was when he was at dinner with his dad.
I might have done it.
So I read that the studio had tried to cut this from the script, and David Benioff agreed and relented, and Spike Lee was like, "Oh, whoa, absolutely not."
Yeah.
So I would have liked to have heard some of those conversations. Naturally, it being 9/11, he had to add a "fuck you" for people from the Middle East in there somewhere. So, too, which wasn't in there, and that way it makes it better because it rounds off everything and everyone at that point. And
it's so funny because have you seen Inside Man?
Yes, I've seen Inside Man.
That is also another kind of quietly, really cool 9/11 film.
The thing is, it totally went over my head when I saw it.
It's quieter, but there is an idea of just how New York's supposed to be and whatnot. And whenever they do see people of color, especially the Muslim people, there is still a whose New York is this?
Yeah.
And in a way that the film isn't being racist, it's the film going hey, you know that we are still part of this culture, and I'm going to push back on you thinking I robbed the bank because I'm wearing a turban.
Yeah.
I didn't. It's the British white guy.
So from there, they moved to a party where he hangs out with Barry Pepper as his friends. I don't remember the names.
It's the actors.
Yeah, it's more than that. Barry Pepper's Frank. Philip Seymour Hoffman plays Jacob. Rosario Dawson plays Naturel. How could I forget that name?
Great name.
And Anna Paquin, who is Philip Seymour Hoffman's student who gets invited to the club, is a 16-year-old. So she's 16.
Yeah.
Oh, you furrowed your eyebrow, so I thought...
I kind of forgot how young she was. Oh, right.
Yeah, because she's his student. Philip Seymour Hoffman plays a high school teacher, and... he confides, and the only character he confides into is Barry Pepper when he tells him that, I'm attracted to this. Well, he says it's his friend, but Barry Pepper knows it immediately through the bullshit that...
Yeah, it's the young girl you just brought in who's dancing in the club right now.
Exactly, and ends up kissing him. So, you have these characters all struggling and fighting for something that... It's really interesting, because you've seen Naturel struggle and her having to cope with two things. One, she's going to lose... Edward Norton, who's her boyfriend, and would have probably been on a trajectory to been her husband. Also, this fact where someone sold him out because he was a drug dealer. That's why he's going away, and the suspicion that she might have been the one to do it.
Well, I mean, obviously she knows that she didn't. But she knows that everyone thinks she did.
Yeah, there are characters that think she did. Now you have Barry Pepper, who's struggling with his reality of, like, I'm basically in the mud with you poor people now because I'm the rich guy on Wall Street.
Right.
And then you have Philip Seymour Hoffman with, I'm trying to hang out with my friend, but I can't hang out. This is not my personality. I can't drink, or I fall to pieces. Also, I'm attracted to a child. So you have that whole thing going on too, and you basically get a lot of people in a room with a lot of problems, and it unfolds sort of like this beautiful play over the course of their scene in the bar, because they spend about an hour in this movie in a club.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of sidebar conversations or conversations of the group where when this character's out of the room, this is a different dynamic. When this character enters the room, it changes the dynamic. And you get to see how these conversations rotate and sort of flow, and it all happens so natural that this was the point where I had said to you two points. One, Spike Lee is the best director I've seen with people in a room talking to each other. He's just able to nail this in a way that's theatrical, entertaining, but also real. It has a verisimilitude to it, particularly why this movie is better than the others in that regard to me is because of that subtle fine point of 9/11 on it. Because somehow he's able to capture that poison in with everything else that's poisoning them. And then the other thing is that Philip Seymour Hoffman may have been the greatest actor to ever live.
If you haven't seen this film, imagine Philip Seymour Hoffman wearing a tan windbreaker.
Yep. Yeah, and a tie.
Yeah.
And baggy clothes.
It's obviously it's great, like, anti-chemistry to have him have most of the scenes with Barry Pepper, who is this Wall Street slick back hair machismo. But it's always like them being witnessed. The ones who they have together, like, alone is like, hey, we're old friends, and now we're actually going to talk about, like, what's really going on. Like, they both kind of break their not their layers, but they're putting their guard down because they're both struggling. And one who's also struggling is that they're about to lose this guy,
right?
And when Barry Pepper puts his guard down, it's so incredible. Especially like when he says, like, he's crying, like, "I'm going to be there when you get out. I don't know if anyone else is going to be there, but I'm going to be there. You're not losing me in the 7 years." Like,
but we also know that he said what he said earlier, and he's sort of made a testament to. He doesn't think that he's going to last in prison either.
Yeah, but I think, like, it's almost like you say it, but like then you see him. I think he was being very sincere, like. Because he was, like, very caught up.
In, no. I think he wants to mean it, but I think a lot of the emotions coming from, I don't think you're going to be around in 7 years. I don't think you're going to survive prison.
Yeah.
And also, maybe if you blow your brains out tonight, I will be okay with your decision.
Yeah.
Because that's something talked about.
Yes, it is. And, I mean, Barry Pepper's really good.
He was. I texted him during it because Barry Pepper was so over the top at the beginning. I'm trying to decide whether Barry Pepper is giving the worst performance ever, or second worst, because there's always William Fichtner in Contact. But then I was like, no, Barry Pepper's amazing in this because it's so consistent. And then there's two scenes: the scene with Edward Norton, the scene with Naturel in the bar, Rosario Dawson, where he tells him, "Listen, I think you're the one that turned him in."
There is
that's like my favorite scene in the movie.
That's such a good scene, and I love
because they're friends. It's when you're watching a friendship dissolve.
There's two kind of great scenes with the two of them. I mean, when they're kind of waiting for him as well, kind of thing. The way he plays it is such a confidence of, like, I'm not going to see you ever again. Like, I am not on your toes.
And the link between us was our mutual friend who's now gone.
We don't text each other.
No, but even though we share a chemistry as friends.
Yeah, we've been to many parties together. I'm never going to see you again.
So,
and also, we
can lay our cards out on the table.
Even if he does get out, you're not going to be around. Let's be honest. Like, he just doesn't believe in her as well.
That's another unspoken thing in the wheel. I love this movie so much. That's another unspoken thing that's happening in this film is while we, as the audience, fall in love with Naturel because she's so cool and so awesome and so supportive of our protagonist, who we can get into whether he's a bad person or not. I think the point of showing these juxtaposition with these people struggling in their lives is to show that we all have our shit. He just broke the law. But regardless, that's another point of view. But she's so supportive.
It's worth noting that in a major way.
In a major way, yes.
He didn't like jaywalk or like just accidentally have like drugs on him.
He was going to deal those drugs.
Yeah, he had a lot of drugs on him and built himself up into this thing to make a lot of money, and was going to keep doing it for a bit longer.
Yes, so. And Barry Pepper makes the point of saying, let's not lose perspective here. This guy did a really, really, really bad thing.
Yes.
But also, you all have your shit too.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not justifying it. What he did was worse. I'm not saying, but it is one of those things. Without that context, I don't think the movie is as powerful. I think that's the point.
Absolutely.
So we're all very, very flawed. And David Benioff is great at presenting that. Obviously, he runs a show called Game of Thrones. But getting back to that point I was making with Natural is that's another unspoken thing in this too. Is Natural's not going to sit around. That's not going to happen. She's way too beautiful and way too smart, and he knows that. That's an unspoken fear in the film, at the very least.
Meaning, it's the thing that like
you don't want her to. You want her to,
and she doesn't. He doesn't want her to.
Yes.
In reality, honestly, it'd be great if the woman
there's two things, right? But there's two things. One,
he can't pause the life,
right? And that's the big thing is that when he goes to prison and doesn't come out, or when he comes to prison, he's not just losing his life; he's losing her. That's another thing too.
Yeah,
it's like a backwards inverted love story happening here too.
Well, and it's the idea also. You mentioned like the anxiety he has about getting out as well. Like, my life we paused, and I can't do anything. I'm not going to like become president after this. I'm not going to like become an astronaut. I'm going to be a convicted felon, and I'm going to sell drugs again. Like, what else is there for me to do? And everyone was like, Barry Pepper's going to keep succeeding in life. The Hoffman may lose his job, but probably will keep succeeding in life.
He'll always be. He might lose his job because he ends up kissing the girl in the bar that night. And this really
bad path,
badass shot by. That's one we've seen so much with Spike Lee, where they sort of roll along. But anyway, before we get too far away from it, Philip Seymour Hoffman in this film just blows me away. You always have a great ticker on where sobriety is, and that's always really important to me. Because alcohol affects everyone differently, I love when he's really wasted. We see him that way, and we come back later and he's passed out in the club. I love that.
I love also that like he's not like blackout drunk. He doesn't stay up this late.
Yes, exactly.
It's like him being asleep is like him still sitting in the chair, just like heads down.
Yes, exactly.
Like, he's not like in his own vomit. It's just like, come on now.
Yeah, and then Spike Lee does a great job of just setting that on the tee for an actor like Philip Seymour Hoffman to just take that over. And oh my god, he's so good.
And Edward Norton like isn't surprised. So, like not embarrassed, like just wakes up like, hey man.
So, and then the other thing, getting back to the prison rape, because I want to move into this, like that fear of it. He has Barry Pepper beat the shit out of him, so he's ugly when he goes to prison.
Yeah. And
so that's what I mean. There's a real fine point on the prison rape thing. That is a thing.
It is just a complete, like, he's been able to succeed in his way for so long, and he's about to be in this situation where he is going to have not only, like, no power and no rights, he's going into prison. Like, he's going to have nothing. Because the great thing, and we should get into this as well, the ending of the movie, where Brian Cox's dad is driving.
Well, before that, Barry Pepper beats him up. And there's this unspoken thing there, too, that's like friendships, like, it's a bloodletting.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I like that, yeah.
It's like every wrong we've ever done to each other, we're going to make it climax this moment.
Yeah.
We're going to force
and
that.
And they both feel, like, disgusting, can't look at each other.
Yeah.
I mean, one is a fat eye, but whatever. But
yeah, anyway, and then...
But, so you have Brian Cox's dad driving into the prison, and he gets this, like, very long monologue of, like, I can always just not take the exit. I cannot take the exit, and this is the life you could live.
I will drive you across the country.
Yeah, I'm going to do this. We're going to go to Texas. You'll find school. It's a long thing about the life he could live if he doesn't go to prison. And
without the fear of them finding him. Yeah. This monologue's all fantasy.
Yes, and it's filmed as fantasy for a number of reasons. One, the way it's shot. He's not beat up. But there should be no suspense in anyone's mind about whether or not it happens, because part of the reason why this movie mattered was because of these connections. Mm-hmm. Like, it is the being the place where you grew up, and you have the history there. You have the history with the people you've known your whole life, the ones you care about, the ones you're starting new relationships, and you're excited about that.
And even if he runs, he doesn't get those things.
He gets none of those things. And the city is one of the cornerstones of what makes him him and what makes him happy.
You made a great point about this. This is his Last Temptation moment.
Yes. You haven't seen or read Last Temptation of Christ.
It'll get covered on this podcast.
Yes,
when we do
100%.
Scorsese. It's great.
Or Willem Dafoe.
Or Willem Dafoe.
I'm kidding. Probably Dafoe.
Yeah, probably.
But the title refers to this moment, the great temptation that Satan gives to Christ is, what if you just don't die? What if you live a happy life? What if you
What if you do everything but you don't get crucified?
What if you are a God who lives as a man? What if you actually have to live and die of old age as a man and have a family? It is the last temptation is peace and happiness, and that is kind of what Brian Cox is pitching to him. But it's also
God, he kills that monologue.
Oh my God, Brian Cox! I think this is the same year as Adaptation. He had an incredible year, and
maybe the same year as X2 as well.
That's next year. He's looking at that too.
Oh, yeah.
Brian Cox, he's great, but it's such a because we never really had a lot of scenes with those two bonding. This is also his way of saying goodbye of the way he chooses. Brian Cox is famously of I'm choosing to never see you again. I'm going to have one last whiskey with you and we're going to walk away. It is such a loving way of I just want you to be happy and okay. Mm-hmm. And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, because he's you can never contact us again.
Yeah.
That's if this fantasy.
Yeah, you're just going to be a bartender, a hole wall thing. Maybe if we're lucky, Rosario Dawson kind of come back to you, have a full family.
And this can't happen.
Yeah, it can't happen. It's not him. And in fact, you never actually. Do you ever, aside from the very last part, do you ever even hear Edward Norton speak during this fantasy?
No.
It's just the very last line, which is Brian Cox still speaking, I believe, because one day you'll tell your grandchildren, I made this choice, and without this choice, I'll never have this room full of
happiness,
kids and grandkids. Incredible film.
Yeah, it really is. I was really happy to see it was added to Roger Ebert's great films list.
Yeah, we have a lot on that list.
Yeah, but 25th Hour, Malcolm X feels like a movie that should definitely be there. 25th Hour feels like a film that is honored to be there. Does that make sense?
It was on a lot of top 10 critics list, but up for 0 Oscars.
Which is insane. Mm-hmm. I cannot believe this film was not nominated for more Oscars. I mean, in 2002, that was Chicago. Mm-hmm. Come on. This movie's way better than Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, way better than Chicago. What else was it that year? Gangs in New York.
Two Towers.
In
the Bedroom.
In the Bedroom was
The
good.
Hours?
The Hours
was that
was
the
up.
picture?
Yeah, that was up. That's right, because I kept confusing 25th Hour with the Hours. That's what it was.
But, of those 5 films, people talk about, 1 or 2 of them still.
The Two Towers, because it's part of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Nobody talks about Chicago anymore. Maybe Gangs in New York, because it's a Scorsese
But,
movie.
only Day-Lewis, really.
That's not a very good movie.
It's not that great.
It's okay.
He'll talk about just Bill the Butcher. In the Bedroom's good.
I like In the Bedroom.
But no one has seen them in 10 plus years.
Good God. I'm pissed off.
Yeah. Spike Lee has a complicated relationship with the Oscars in that
they don't nominate him.
They don't nominate him and he's mad.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So, if you just got through this whole podcast and you haven't seen the movie, you're part of the problem. Go see it.
It's a great movie.
And weirdly, because it's such a character study and a beautiful representation of its themes, telling you the end doesn't spoil anything.
Oh, not at all.
There's so many more scenes we haven't talked about.
The end is spoiled at the beginning.
Yeah.
He's going to prison at the end of the film.
Yeah.
It's the anxiety on the last day and how time compresses when we know it's finite.
Yeah.
I know we're about to cut out of here, but it's I was on a cruise ship for 6 days, and those people I met on that cruise ship, I met on day 1. By day 3, it was I'd known them for my entire life. There's some science happening here, and when you know your time is limited, you go through motions and you process information in a completely different way.
You never talk to them again, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And this weird sort of hyper reality. This movie captures that in a post 9/11 time capsule, and
with half dozen of the greatest actors alive.
Yeah, half the dozen greatest actors alive, directed by one of the greatest directors that ever lived. Mm-hmm. See ya.
Yeah. And Benioff. Anywho, thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week with a review of BlackkKlansman, the film that came out a month ago now, but hopefully you were able to catch it while it was in theaters. We'll have a lot to talk about next week with our guest, playwright David Guyton. Very excited about that. Mm-hmm. Until then, you can go to theartofimmortal.com, leave a comment about this film or any film that we've covered. You have the whole backlog there. While there, you can check out The Immortals. This week, we reviewed a French film that I had never seen before called The Baker's Wife, and I watched a season and a half of the original series of Star Trek. Listen to that conversation of me going, this is a goofy show. Also, while there, check out Ad Absurdum, the great podcast where two lawyers talk about the real-life implications of pop culture. Very, very fun. I would recommend the Gattaca episode. Follow us on Twitter at The Immortals Pod and leave us a review on iTunes. People find the show that way. It really helps with the magical iTunes algorithm. Where can we find you?
Constant Aversion's my YouTube channel. Check me out on there.
You should all subscribe to that channel.
I think they probably have. There's like 400 subscribers, which is way more than I'm worthy of because...
You know what we don't have? 400 iTunes reviews.
That's true. I definitely have more comments on YouTube than we have for this.
God. I used to like you listeners like 5 minutes ago. Now it's all changed.
No, they're all great. They're just shy. We know they're there.
I know. I see the numbers. Anywho, truly thank you all for listening. You get it. I love you. Send that out. Anyway,
I'm Eric Martindale.
I'm Austin Luger.
C25th Hour.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, fuck you, too. Fuck me. Fuck you. Fuck you and this whole city and everyone in it. No. Fuck the panhandlers grubbing for money and smiling at me behind my back. Fuck this squeegee man dirty enough to clean windshield of my car. Get a fucking job. Fuck the Sikhs and the Pakistanis bombing down the avenues in decrepit cabs. Curry steaming out their pores, stinking up my day. Terrorists in fucking training. Slow the fuck down!
Thinking about getting one of those operations that elongate your penis?
Fuck the Chelsea boys with their waxed chests and pumped up biceps. Going down on each other in my parks and on my piers, jiggling their dicks on my Channel 35. Fuck the Korean grocers with their pyramids of overpriced fruit and their tulips and roses wrapped in plastic. 10 years in the country, still no speaking English. Fuck the Russians in Brighton Beach. Mobster thugs sitting in cafes, sipping tea in little glasses, sugar cubes between their teeth. Wheeling and dealing and scheming. Go back where you fucking came from. Fuck the black-hatted Hasidim strolling up and down 47th Street in their dirty gabardine with their dandruff.